What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel where we speak the truth, we're honest, and we give our takes on the Miami Dolphins. It is Monday, September 2nd, 2024, and this is your Miami Dolphins 2024 season preview. We made it. We made it. I've been waiting for this week for about 8 months now, ever since we lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in the wild card round. First round exits once again. And, you know, it's been a long off season. It's been a grueling off season. We've had a lot of questions to answer. We've had a lot of holes to fill with Christian Wilkins, Robert Hunt, Andrew Van Ginkel, Xavier Howard. We've had a lot of holes that we've had to fill. But we've also had some players that we've locked down for a long time. Jalen Waddle signed a contract. He's here until 2028. Tyreek Hill signed an extension. He's here until 2026. Tua Tagovailoa, the big one in the offseason, the 4-year, $212.4 million contract. He's here until 2028. And recently, the Dolphins extended Mike McDaniel until 2028. So we have our future locked up, and the window is until 2026. We have until the 2026-2027 season to win a Super Bowl. That's our window. We got a 3-year window, ladies and gentlemen. It is now or never. If they're telling you it's a transition year, you could tell them to fuck off. Because we mean business this year. Tired of losing in the first round every year. We need better. We need better as Dolphins fans. Right now, we're the jokes of the NFL. 24 years without winning a playoff game. I mean, that's got to stop. It's got to stop. That's the bar minimum, right? Just win as a fucking playoff game, man. But I'm excited for the season. I am. A lot of talent on this team again. A lot of players that we picked up this offseason that I like. Jordan Brooks, absolutely loved that pickup. Jalen Wright, loved when they drafted him in the 4th round. So much more, man. So much more. We're going to get into it all today. But, man, I'm happy this week is here. This week feels refreshing, and last week was a really long week. And now that it's happened, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys, if you guys could pray for my dad. Last week, my father had to get open heart surgery, and he was in the hospital for a couple days, in intensive care, making sure he's being checked on, making sure he's okay. He's doing all right now. He's sleeping downstairs in studio. It's why I'm not taping in studio. I'm taping in my room, the Dolphin Cave, I guess you can call this. But he is downstairs in the studio sleeping, and he's just resting, man. So that's why it's been a long week. It's a lot mentally for sure, but if you guys could give your thoughts and prayers to my father, who is on the road to recovery for the open heart surgery. He is on day 6 of recovery. So if you guys could give him your thoughts and prayers, I would really appreciate that. It's been a long week, but now we both Even though he's a New England Patriots fan, we both have something to look forward to together this week, and that's watching some NFL football. So, um, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Talk about why I really took the week off. I know I'm going to be doing a lot of content this week, but that's what's been happening in my life. So I feel like I can open up to you guys. I've had this channel for 4 years, so feel like go ahead, open up, and tell you guys what's going on behind the scenes, man. So. Now we could get into the Dolphins. Now we can get into some Dolphins football. And how I'm going to break this down is we're going to talk about what I'm most worried about, what I'm most confident about, and then we are going to break down the Dolphins season game by game. I'm not going to sit here and give you some bullshit record prediction and be like, oh, well, week 1, we're going to beat Jacksonville, and week 16, we're going to lose to the 49ers and all this shit. And then, we're going to finish the season, 12-5. I'm not going to sit here and give you that. That's such a waste of time. Instead, I could just break down the game as simply and easy as I can. And who knows what is going to happen with injuries. I mean, Jesus Christ. After last year, I hope we get a break with injuries. Because that's literally why, one of the reasons why we had our collapse at the end of the season was because literally half of our defense was injured. And the other reason is because, well, teams just figured out our fucking offense. And that's something I'm going to talk about in this video. So, let's dive into it. I'm going to give you my most worry first. And I think this is a lot of Dolphin fans' worry. And it's the offensive line. And the Dolphins made a move. The Dolphins made a move during the waiver claim where they signed wide receiver Grant DeBose from the Green Bay Packers, and they cut Jack Driscoll. And I know Jack Driscoll didn't have that good of a preseason, but with the way this offensive line is shaped up, we need depth at any position. And the only reason why I'm thinking Chris Greer let go of Jack Driscoll is because Andrew Meyer outperformed him in training camp, and Andrew Meyer is more qualified for a backup, mostly center, but he's more qualified for a backup on this offensive line instead of Jack Driscoll. Jack Driscoll does have experience playing with the Philadelphia Eagles, but he just wasn't that good for the Miami Dolphins in the preseason, and that's why they cut him. Do I agree with it? I don't. I don't agree with it because we need as much depth as possible. So, you're looking at our offensive line. First off, Aaron Brewer back to practicing today. That's good news for the Dolphins. That's really good news for the Dolphins because we need him out there because he might not be that good, but Liam Eichenberg at center is disastrous. He is a disaster at center. And Chris Greer he said that famous line. He said that famous line this week, and I'm about to play it. Hopefully it comes up on here, but I'm about to play what Chris Greer said about the offensive line. Once again, he said it last year in March, and he said it again. So here is what Chris Greer said on Wednesday. This is last week, Wednesday, about the offensive line.
Nose tackle and guard. Did you make any attempt in recent days, or are there any ongoing attempts to add a quality starter at either spot? Be the trade market, be a waiver wire, and if not, what is your confidence
Yeah, so it's always interesting because Mike and I were talking about this the other day that with the offensive line, how every year that's you guys are like, oh, we're not good enough, not good enough, but then offensively we're a pretty good offense the last 2 years, and a number of you guys have talked about how the guys have improved. Those guys on the offensive line have worked their tails off. We feel confident in them. The coaching staff believes in them, and Butch and Mike and Frank have done a great job, and Lem in helping those guys develop and work. And so I think the important thing is they all work together. It's a really cohesive unit, and just watching them work together is great every day. They hang out together, so it's a very close-knit unit. That said, yeah, we'll add someone to the practice squad like we always do. Just for your information, we released Jack.
Well, that's all we need to hear right there, but there it is. Fans saying not good enough, not good enough. And at the end there, I didn't want to play the part where he talked about Jack Driscoll, but he said fans saying not good enough, and him and McDaniel chuckle about it. And, I'm sure we'll be chuckling about that when we're getting bullied by the San Francisco 49ers and the Cleveland Browns, where we are getting dominated in the trenches by them in December. So we'll be referencing that again when we play those two teams. But, I'm worried. Right now, our projected offensive line is Teron Armstead, which we'll be lucky if he's healthy after 3 games. We'll be lucky if he's healthy after 3 games. So Teron Armstead at left tackle, Robert Jones at left guard, center Aaron Brewer, right guard Liam Eichenberg, and right tackle Austin Jackson. Now that's if Aaron Brewer plays on Sunday. If he doesn't play on Sunday, then we have Teron Armstead, Lester Cotton, Liam Eichenberg at center, which we do not want to see, Robert Jones at right guard, and Austin Jackson at right tackle. That's our offensive line. I'm concerned about it, as you should be as well. We were good in the beginning of the season, but towards the end of the season, and when we played the good teams like the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City in the playoffs and Baltimore, we didn't do so good. We did not do so good. And we cannot be a finesse football team. We have to be physical late in the season. We weren't physical versus the Tennessee Titans. We weren't physical versus the Baltimore Ravens. We weren't physical versus the Buffalo Bills. And that's where they beat us. They beat us in the trenches on the offensive line. And that's my worry. That's my worry. Now, I remember last year everybody was panicking about the offensive line going up against Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack last year when the Dolphins played the Chargers week 1. This year we play the Jacksonville Jaguars week 1, and we are going up against 2 really good pass rushers again, and Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. And Josh Allen's a beast. I am worried about Josh Allen. I don't know if he's going to be lined up on Austin Jackson or Teron Armstead, but I am worried about Josh Allen. That man is a fucking monster, and he can wreck up the game at any point in given time. So, we are going to talk about that Jags game in a little bit since that is our game this week. But I'm going to give you what I'm most confident in. And what I'm most confident in, ladies and gentlemen, is our running back room. Now, if Mike McDaniel uses our running backs correctly, which I have confidence that he will, they will have a season. They will have the season like they did last year. Do I think Raheem Mostert is going to have 21 touchdowns again, ladies and gentlemen? I don't. Okay? I mean, that was a fucking unbelievable year by Raheem Mostert last year. I would be thrilled. I would be ecstatic if we get that season out of him again. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't see it at all. Him going back to 21 touchdowns. But someone who I do think is going to be better this year is Devon Achane in his sophomore year. And I bring this up because I want to talk about it. I had a fantasy draft last weekend with a couple of my friends, and I drafted Devon Achane in the second round. And everybody called me crazy. And this was an in-person draft as well, so everybody at this draft was calling me and saying that I drafted Achane in the second round. And I'm like, you fucking watch the season he's going to have this year for the Dolphins. He played... How many games did he play? He played the Broncos, the Bills, the Giants, Washington, Tennessee. Okay, he played 9 games last year. He played 9 games last year, and he rushed for 800 yards. Not exactly, but over 800 yards and 11 touchdowns. Could you imagine what we're going to get if this man stays healthy? That's his biggest enemy, is him staying healthy. Devon Achane needs to be healthy. And then you're going to add Jalen Wright into the offense as well. Miami, ladies and gentlemen, not only does the Miami Dolphins have the best backfield in the AFC, they have the best backfield in the NFL. No one can tell me different. Raheem Mostert, after the season he had last year, I don't think he's going to have 21 touchdowns again, but I do think he's going to have a good season. Devon Achane, I'm really excited about him. He will be running back 1 by the end of the season. Devon Achane will be our running back 1 by the end of this season. I'm telling you right now. Then Jalen Wright and Jeff Wilson, a veteran like Jeff Wilson. This is the best running back room in the NFL. And it is close. You could say, like, when Nick Chubb comes back, you could say Cleveland. But you've got 3 studs in Mostert, Devon Achane, and Jalen Wright. And I'm excited to see what they do this season. I really am. So, now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and break down these games. These games for the Dolphins. We're going to go game by game here. Short analysis, not long, because the long analysis are on the previews. Week by week by week. The long analysis are going to be on the previews. You get the full breakdown of that week's matchup. So obviously, Sunday, we play the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that Tua and Trevor Lawrence are in the same situation, because Tua got paid in the offseason, and he hasn't really had a big accomplishment. He led the league in passing yards, but that's an individual stat. I'm talking like team accomplishment. Yeah, we went to the playoffs, but we didn't do shit in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars are in the same situation. Last year, they were 8-3. Last year, in Week 13, ladies and gentlemen, they were in first place in the AFC. The Jacksonville Jaguars were in first place. And what happened? Trevor Lawrence got injured on Monday Night Football. Christian Kirk got injured in the same game. And although Trevor Lawrence played, Um, he clearly was not the same player. And they lost, and they lost, and they lost, and they lost, and they picked up a win there, and they lost the end of the season. So they went from 8-3, first in the AFC, on top of the road, on top of the world, to not even making the playoffs. And they have, skill-wise, a different look than they did last season. Obviously, they have Christian Kirk back. They have Travis Etienne, but they got some they got some new receivers to play with. Man, they got Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU, who they drafted in the first round. They got Gabe Davis, who was the number 2 receiver on the Buffalo Bills. He's now going to be the number 2 receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars behind Christian Kirk. And they have the same exact offensive line as they did last year, outside of Mitch Morse. Mitch Morse is the new starting center for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But also what's different for them this year is their secondary. A little bit different. They have Tyson Campbell at that corner. They have Andre Cisco at strong safety. I don't think Andre Cisco started out the year as the starter last year for Jacksonville, but he's their starter strong safety. And then this past offseason, they signed Darnell Savage and Ronald Darby. So I do think this is a really good test. And I do think this is a really good Week 1 matchup for the Miami Dolphins. This team's not a slouch. 2 years ago, this team won a playoff game in incredible fashion. They won a playoff game 2 years ago in incredible fashion. And you can't take that away from them. You can't take that away from Trevor Lawrence. But what you can tell about them is they had their collapse last year, just like the Miami Dolphins. So they're going to have a lot of shit to prove, as are we. And I think this is the perfect Week 1 matchup for the Miami Dolphins. Now, thinking about it, you get a real sexy quarterback matchup in Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa. 2 good offenses, although I think Miami's is better than Jacksonville. And we got some new pieces in the secondary as well, as does Jacksonville. So I'm excited for this, man. I'm excited for this game a whole lot. Jacksonville's a really good team, and there's no way you should underestimate them. We're going to talk more about the Jaguars game on Friday for the preview. So that's our Week 1 matchup. Week 2, we are going to turn it right around and play the Buffalo Bills on Thursday night. This has to be our statement game. This has to be our statement game that we put the AFC East on notice. That we are beating the Buffalo Bills this year, and we are looking to be the kings of the AFC East. Because everybody, once again, is not talking about the Miami Dolphins. They're talking about the Bills, and more importantly, they're talking about the New York Jets. Everybody is predicting the Jets or the Bills to win the AFC East this season, not the Miami Dolphins. So this has to be our statement game, because Josh Allen, for his entire career, has kicked our ass besides one game. One game. Josh Allen's kicked our ass his entire career. And they are at their weakest part. They are at their weakest they've ever been in a very long time. They have no Stephon Diggs. They have no Gabe Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, Khalil Shakir is their number 1 receiver. Their top receiver is Khalil Shakir. So, if there's any year the Miami Dolphins are going to beat the Buffalo Bills, it's this year. And it has to be this year. Week 3, After that, we take a trip to Seattle. Now, this is going to be a really tough game because the furthest road trip for any team in the NFL this season is for Miami to Seattle. So you're talking about a really long flight. You might be sleep deprived. Who knows? That place is not easy to play at, man. But I will say this. I feel much better about playing Seattle in September than I do playing them in December. It's going to be a really tough game. It's super loud in there, so the noise is going to be a factor for sure when we play in Seattle. And again, they remind me like the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a lot to prove this year. Their division's tough. They have a new head coach who was probably the best defensive coordinator in the NFL last year. And they've got Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba is rising up to be their second receiver over Tyler Lockett. They've got some nice secondary pieces. They got Devon Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen. Hey, Jerome Baker's on the Seattle Seahawks too. Ex-Miami Dolphin. That is going to be a tough game. Seattle's not an easy team. And going to Lumen Field, that is not easy. So, that is going to be a tough game. And that's our first road game of the season, is Seattle. Week 4, Tennessee. Tennessee on Monday night. I will be there. Second year in a row that I will be at the Titans-Dolphins on a Monday night. I wish this game wasn't on a Monday night. It gives me awful flashbacks to last year. That was our season. If we beat the Tennessee Titans, we don't have to worry about playing the Bills week 18. We can sit our starters, and we play the Pittsburgh Steelers round 1 of the playoffs with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. But they went on ahead. They lost to the Titans with a 2-touchdown lead with 3 minutes to go. And he, who shall not be named, who's no longer on the coaching staff, blew us that game. So, if there's one word to describe this game: revenge. Revenge. We need revenge on last year's game with that punk-ass quarterback, Will Levis. And we need revenge from last season. So, that game is absolutely, and it should be for all the players in the locker room, that game is absolutely 100% circled on the calendar. 100%. They need to go in there and kick their ass. Week 5 against the New England Patriots. This is the game that Tom Brady will be in the commentary booth calling the Dolphins and the Patriots. Dolphins handled the Patriots the last couple seasons outside of the Teddy Bridgewater game. And, the Patriots are probably the worst team in the AFC. Their receivers are absolute garbage. They just traded away Matthew Judon. They have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. I'm not going to say this is an easy game because the Patriots are a division rival. And division rivals are tough, especially when they're on the road. And this one is on the road in Foxborough. And it's just a game you can't underestimate. They're a division rival. So, but it's probably the weakest that they will be. That they've been going into a season. And the big question for that one is, will Drake May be the starting quarterback for the Patriots by the time we get to this game October 6th? Or is it still going to be Jacoby Brissett? That's going to be the question. So, that is the Patriots Week 5. Week 6 is our bye. And then we have the players on our PUP list. Bradley Chubb, Isaiah Wynn, Odell Beckham, River Craycraft. Hopefully, I'm praying we get those guys back by Week 7 when we take on the Indianapolis Colts in Indy. And a lot of people are hyping up Anthony Richardson. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't get it. Why? He played 4 games last year. We don't know shit about Anthony Richardson. It's like he's a rookie going into his first season. He's a rookie quarterback, basically. 4 games. And he got hurt, and he was out for the season. So, what sample size do we have of Anthony Richardson for him to be getting all this hype in the offseason? Yes, the Colts are as healthy as they've ever been going into this season. Jonathan Taylor is 100% healthy. They have great receivers. Michael Pittman. They have Josh Downs. They have Atani Mitchell. So they have a good receiving core now for Anthony Richardson. I don't understand the hype of the Colts at all. I think they're a year away. I think you give them this year, and then maybe next year, they're going to be a playoff contender. But then all the Colts fans are going to say, well, the Colts were 1 play away from going to the playoffs with Gardner Minshew. They're for sure going to get it with Anthony Richardson. Again, I don't know. I doubt it. But that's still not an easy game. But a dome, that's a plus. Then after 3 weeks away, the Miami Dolphins come home and they take on the Arizona Cardinals at Hard Rock Stadium. Arizona with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not really scared of Arizona. I'm not. It's just we are going to have to not overlook them. And hopefully that's not the game we slip up on like Tennessee was last year, because that was our game that we slipped up on against all the easy teams we played. And I hope Arizona's not the team we slip up on. So that's just a game where we're going to have to go in there. We're going to have to take care of business. Week 9. This is kind of where the schedule starts to, I guess, get intense. Week 9 at Orchard Park versus those stinky, slimy Buffalo Bills. And listen, if we're going to play Buffalo in Buffalo, and the first game of the year is going to be in Miami, and the second game of the year is going to be in Buffalo, this is the best time for it. It won't be too cold. It's November 3rd. You can't expect it to be that cold on November 3rd. We'll have our cold weather games later, but I don't expect this one to be cold. So hopefully we should be fine. Will we win? I don't know. But then this one gets me excited. They all get me excited. All the games get me excited. But when I saw this game in May, like, ooh, this is prime time too. Week 10 at SoFi Stadium against the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Man, am I expecting a big season out of the Los Angeles Rams? If I have a sleeper team in the NFC that could possibly make a run this season, it's the Los Angeles Rams. And I'm telling you what, if they beat Detroit in the wild card game last year, they would have been playing in the NFC Championship. They would have went on, they would have beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they would have lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship. But man, that team has so much fucking talent on offense. And Sean McVay's an absolute wizard. A wizard. And Sean McVay versus Mike McDaniel. Oh, God. That's exciting, man. That's exciting. So that is going to be a hell of a game when we get there. I honestly hope both teams are really good when we get to that game. Week 10, November 11th on Monday Night Football. And then we fly home. We take on the Las Vegas Raiders, the Christian Wilkins return game, and then the following week, we take on the New England Patriots. But now we have to get to the 6 weeks that's going to determine our season, just like last year, with games against Dallas, Baltimore, and Buffalo to determine our season. The Dolphins failed, and for that they had to go to Kansas City in the wild card round. You saw the weather there last year. It was -4 degrees, and they got their asses handed to them 26-7. So we know all about that. These 6 games are going to determine the season for the Miami Dolphins. And the first one up is a Thanksgiving night matchup in Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. Against Jordan Love. And they've got a stud receiving core where they don't have a number 1 receiver. Dontavion Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. I'm missing another name. Jaden Reed. They just signed Josh Jacobs. And their defense is low-key underrated, too. They signed Xavier McKinney in the offseason. They got Rashad Gary. Everybody knows about Jair Alexander, Preston Smith. That team is going to be a contender this year. And that is going to be a really tough game. And last year, I did some research before I made this video, this podcast. Last year, on Thanksgiving night in Green Bay, it was 28 degrees. So, yeah. That might be our first cold game of the year in Lambeau Field. Yikes. We come home and take on the New York Jets. And how are the Jets going to be at this point of the season? Are they going to be banged up? Is Rodgers not even going to be on the field? Is Aaron Rodgers going to be hurt again? I have no idea. All these people are hyping them up again. But saying all they have to offense has to do is score 20 points or they're going to win every week. Listen, man. This Miami Dolphins offense, they put up 30. They put up fucking 30. They put up 30 points twice on the Jets. I'm sorry. I don't take the Jets as serious as I do the Buffalo Bills. Maybe later in the season I will. But you know who I do take serious this year? The Houston Texans. They are going to be unbelievable. And that's who the Dolphins play week 15. It's in Houston. But it's in a dome. So that is good. CJ Stroud. They traded for Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins. You can disagree with me all you want. But the Miami Dolphins might have the best running back room in the NFL, but they don't have the best wide receiver room in the NFL. The best wide receiver room in the NFL goes to the Houston Texans. Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. That's awesome. And their offense they're full of studs. And D'Amico Ryans is such a great head coach as well. That could be a game that's flexed to Sunday night. Let's see. What is the current Week 15 Sunday Night Football game? Because they're both teams are hopefully going to be in the race. Green Bay and Seattle. So if Seattle's out of it by then, right? If Seattle's out of the playoff mix, the NFL just might make this game Sunday Night Football. Who knows? But I think hopefully the Dolphins are in the playoff mix by the time Week 15 comes. And I think Houston will be as well. So I can easily see that game being flexed over to Sunday night late in the season. But then Week 16, we come home and play the San Francisco 49ers. And everybody knows the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, they just signed to a long-term deal. George Kittle, their defense, Nick Bosa. Their window's going to come up short as well. Their window's almost ending because pretty soon, sooner rather than later, the 49ers front office are going to have to pay Brock Purdy. So, their window's coming up very soon. They were so close last year, but they didn't get it. And, man, they're going to be heavy favorites going into this game. Now, Week 17. It's another cold weather game. It's in Cleveland. But the question is, will the Cleveland Browns be in playoff contention by the time we get to Week 17? I don't know. I do not trust Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry. He sucks. He's an asshole. But their defense is great. Their problem is, I don't trust Deshaun Watson. And they loaded up the offense. They've got a top 10 offensive line. They will have Nick Chubb back by then. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, and ladies and gentlemen, if there's any quarterback in the NFL that is dealing with the most pressure going into this season, it's Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has the most pressure out of any quarterback in the NFL this season, and it's not close. It's Deshaun Watson. And probably behind him, I would say Daniel Jones, just for job security. But Deshaun Watson's dealing with the most pressure out of all quarterbacks this season. And, I don't trust him. And this is actually a cold weather game that I trust the Dolphins in. They're better than the Browns, in my opinion. This team is better than the Browns. So I think they can actually go to Cleveland and win this game. And then Week 18, we ended off with the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium. So that's all I got. I gave you my weakest, my most concerned, my most confident. And we broke down the games that the Dolphins are going to be playing in this season. But I didn't give you too much, because the full-on analysis, the actual previews are going to be on Fridays, okay? Not next week, because next week we play on Thursday Night Football. So next week's preview is going to be on Tuesday. But this week's preview is going to be on Friday night. But Ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting out of here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Big Fight Field channel. Football season is here, and that means we are going to be here the majority of the week. Wednesday, we've got picks. We go over every week one matchup, and I'm going to give you my prediction of who is going to win these games week 1 of the NFL season. And then Friday, we got the preview for the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Miami Dolphins. Trevor Lawrence is coming to town this weekend, and we're going to give him an ass whooping. That's what I'm talking about. And then Sunday is the main course meal, the post-game recap podcast, the post-game podcast video for your Miami Dolphins taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you Wednesday with my picks for week 1. Have a good night. Stay safe, and as always, stay classy. And I'm out. Peace. Fins up.